Tired, thank you so much. Also, you look phenomenal. This is an incredible dress. We will see you out there.
Yes, baby. No.
Even if I'm gonna probably change my gloves, but whatever. What's that? And this is gonna be the awkward part where like I don't have anyone to take pictures for me, so I'm gonna pose for myself. Hello, my name is Ma Tante Alex, which stands for Aunt Alex or like Auntie Alex. I've been doing drag since September this year, and I'm 23 years old. What else do you need to know? Before I used to do drag, I used to dress more feminine and act more feminine or submissive during my daily activities. But when I started doing drag, I had like an outlet for all of that to like really showcase that side of me. I started taking pictures of local drag queens, and like when I started like knowing them and like being more friendly with them, that's when I saw like there are people like me. It's not like only one kind of individuals that can do it. Just put socks in. I don't know what other girls do it use, but probably not this. And I know this bodysuit is really, really tight, so I want them to be like pointy. See? Skinny. Drag is not necessarily a man dressing up as a woman anymore, or was it ever? But you see people being like unapologetically themselves on stage. And from there, I usually run. Yes, yes, yes! That's the one. All right, we're good.
I think someone died.
Je suis Gisèle Lebaille, journaliste d'enquête et femme du peuple. Hi everyone, I'm Gisèle Lebaille, reporter and woman of the people. It's me. So my name is from Gisèle Bündchen from Brazil, the most well-paid top model in the world. So I was inspired by her when I was in fashion design. And lullaby is for the fact that my English was so bad when I was young. And I really, really deeply thought that libellule, that means dragonfly, was lullaby. It's match, French to English, but it doesn't mean the same thing at all. My style is more like, when I started, I was the slut. You know, every bar has its own slut. I was just playing like, hey, I'm sexy. I was the fishy one, that's what we call it now, the fishy. At some point, more you get old, and I'm saying I'm old, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying you get more respectful for the woman you're doing. So at one point, you cannot spread your legs. And it's not saying like, oh my God, every woman can do whatever they want. You just see a respect, and being shy is still, not shy, let's say modest. It's still acceptable to be a good job or a good entertainment. Yeah. I just realized I don't have to take off my clothes all the time to be respected. I've been drag queen a lot of places. So I've been drag queen in Toronto. I lived there for 2 years with my ex-boyfriend that we're gonna call Voldemort. So I lived there and I did drag, and there's a lot of difference between Montreal and Toronto. And there's a lot of similarity. Yes! But here the main difference between the two worlds, and I'll just say those two words right now, it's just the tip. We don't do tips here.
Our culture is really like, we don't want to like interrupt anyone. We're really like respectful in that sense. So we don't want to like, and we don't want to like be looked weird at if we go up and tip one queen when everyone else is sitting down.
Everyone is paid. Okay, you can do benevola if you want to, but everyone is paid mainly. They were so scared to be called stripper or be called whore, because they wanted to do drag, dress as women without having the sexual part of it. The fact that people want to have sex with them and just make it as an art. So the big difference was there to make sure that they get paid and they don't have tips. Yeah, respect. The problem in Toronto is the fact that it's tips. You're gonna see the public as a bank. The bank you're gonna get tonight. So that's the only pay that everyone has to share. And the share, that's not a good word. I started and it was so sweet because they think I was new. And it was not new. I knew my shit.
But yeah, we don't tip. And it would make a big difference if people would tip. Because we are not paid a lot for doing what we do.
How are ya? Ça va? English or French? English. Wow, you're a strapping young fella. Are you married? Oh, to that guy in the back. Congrats. Yeah, not tonight.
The three of us do not have typical pretty girl faces when we're in drag.
What? Excuse me?
We have pretty faces. We're gorgeous, but we don't look like, you know, we don't look like those girls.
My drag name is Moxie Hollow. Moxie came from one of my favorite video games. And Hollow came from the fact that I don't smile a lot, I don't speak a lot. Like I'm like empty inside, dead inside. I'm not, but I just seem to be like that.
So my drag name is God. And it depends on what mood I'm in, which story I tell. But my drag name either comes from the fact that when I walk into a room, everyone says, "Oh my God!" Or the real story is that I was whining to a friend of mine about how hungry I was, and I said, "Oh my God!" My drag style is generally very classic, but I've started to do a little bit more exploration in terms of like the Dragula side of my art, so a little bit more horror, a little bit more of like a dark glamour.
So the story of how I started drag was a little convoluted, I would say. Well, first disclaimer, Uma/Ryan is my husband. We've been together for 15 years. My drag name is Selma God. Obviously, first reasons because I'm related to Uma. So that's where the God part comes from. But then I decided for Selma because I want a name that was witchy, but also a name that showed a certain age and a certain wisdom, because I am the leader of the group, so I want a name that had a certain authority to it.
House of Lorraine, we went out there to be different than what was being offered in the village. Not because it's bad necessarily, but just because we wanted to do it our way. We also wanted to be very political, which is not something that happens a lot in the village.
If I was going to describe Coven to someone who has never seen a drag show, the way I see the distinction between out of village and village drag, first of all, people that maybe aren't in Montreal, the village is the gay village. So it's a strip of St. Catherine Street that is considered the gay village. You'll find rainbow flags everywhere, gay sex shops, and it's catering to a queer clientele. Village tends to be francophone because we are in Montreal, so the establishments operate in French. And out of village queens tend to be anglophones because, well, we're out of the village, so we tend to host our shows in English. The village, not that it's a bad thing, but it has evolved to please the audience. And the audience often involves, especially if you go on the weekend, often involves, you know, women that are in their 30s and 40s coming from Laval or Longueuil with their girlfriends to see a man in a dress.
Other things that you see in Montreal that are very, very unique to the city is that we have cabarets. Yes. We're so lucky that we have these cabarets that allow artists like us to do weird stuff. Yeah. Because we have these cabarets where someone comes to sit down to more or less watch a show. Whereas in, for instance, Toronto, so many of the venues are in clubs. And so the girls come out and they do 6 songs in a row in one costume.
One wig.
One wig, one costume, 6 songs in a row to a room of people that aren't interested in the drag show. They want to hear their favorite song so they can grind on their date. And then the hosting amounts to them trying their hardest to get people's attention and just going, hey, what's your name? Are you gay? Have a shot. Hey, what's your name? Are you gay? Have a shot. And they are marathon runners.
And yes, sometimes people just need to escape, and that's great. Because we do need that in life. We need art that just helps us forget about the horrible things in the world. But is drag inherently political? Mine is. Because how will we move forward as a community that's oppressed if we don't stand up for ourselves?
Well, at the beginning, the village was supposed to be the place where all the queers could like get together and meet each other and get out of like the loneliness of being gay. And I think as we move forward, it's kind of losing that sense in a way. So if you think what makes Montreal so specific is, well, not Montreal in particular, but like the Montreal drag scene is that it's very wide. And sometimes I feel like I might be booked because of we need a person of color, so here's Anaconda. You know, like, my name is Anaconda La Sabrosa, and I am Montreal's plus size drag bearded Latin queen. People don't know if they should call me sir or lady, and I'm like, girl, just call me whatever, as long as you are respectful to me. So yeah, for me, it's really about expressing gender and the fluidity of it. Whereas I identify myself as a royalty, because that way there's no gender. Sorry, Mike. I just hit the mic. Sorry, guys. You don't see that many people of color anymore in the village because they don't feel welcome. They don't feel safe in those spaces. But not all Montreal is like that as well. Like, when you look at the burlesque scene in Montreal, there's a lot of women of color or like people of color in the shows, and there's something that I always find so inspiring.
I think that once you start to really explore drag beyond the business of drag, you really start to realize that, like, it's all kind of a joke. It's whatever you make of it. As long as you are playing the game, that's all I care about. Because if I saw a guy get up on stage without lashes, wearing, you know, something he picked up at Garage, or does that exist anymore?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so at Garage, and you know, didn't know the words to his song, and wearing, you know, high heels that don't fit, I'm not gonna be like, yeah, queen, get your life, just because of that. I'm gonna do it because I see something in him that shows that he's passionate about it, because he's trying hard, fine. But that means that any girl who gets up on stage deserves that same respect. And I have to support her the same way. So, I mean, if I saw that same guy in 2 years and he was still just wearing no lashes and heels that don't fit and a shake and go wig, I'm gonna be like, sorry girl, get out. If I see a girl that's doing the same thing, I'm gonna say, sorry girl, get out. But if she puts in as much work as I do, she's playing the game, I respect that. She's an artist, she's doing it, let her do it.
My name is Wendy Warhol, and I am a drag queen in Montreal. Actually, I'm a big fan of Andy Warhol, and I like to say that I am his illegitimate daughter. So my story is that Andy, my father, had an affair with a drag queen, and this is how I was born. I used to have my own blog about activities in Montreal, and I was covering the Fringe Festival. I wrote an article about my top 5 shows that you must not miss during the festival. One of these 5 shows was the House of Lorraine show. And they actually wrote me an email saying, first of all, thank you for pushing our show. And then they invited me actually to go to their premiere. And they said, like, if you want, we will put you in drag for fun. I got to know some drag kings, and I thought they were funny. So I was like, well, maybe I could do that. And that's what I did for a year. When you do art, it has to represent you in a certain way. And well, my drag king wasn't representing me at all. And then in the meanwhile, I got to know other female drag queens. And I got to realize that actually it was possible to be a female and a drag queen at the same time.
I didn't know that women could do drag simply because I've never seen any. My name is Miss Daniels Vixen. Miss Daniels comes from the fact that I used to come here for about a year before I started doing drag. And when the drag queens weren't familiar with me, the only thing they knew is that the first thing I did when I walked in a club was to order 2 shots of Jack. So they started calling me Miss Daniels without knowing my name, and it's stuck ever since. And the Vixen is my family name, so my drag family name.
Well, people who don't know what drag is, they're like, well, if you don't pad, you're not a drag queen. If you don't wear wigs, you're not a drag queen. If you're not wearing this, that, if you don't. If we put the same effort as the other drag queens, because unfortunately it is true that some female drag queens don't put as much effort as they should. But then again, what is a drag queen? I mean, there's no rules, but at the same time there are rules, so it's hard to, like, if you're on stage with no makeup and then a guy is on stage with barely any makeup, but you would say that the guy is a drag queen but not the girl, then, you know, it's, no matter what you do, if you're wearing pads or not, nails or not, wig or not, makeup or not, I don't know what, no matter what, if I recognize you on stage, I think you still need to work on your drag. We're clowns for adults, that's it.
I describe drag as, actually I have to describe it often for clients that come out, because I work at the door at Mado, and I have to explain to them what it is, and I simply tell them that it's not about a man dressing as a woman dressing as a man, a woman dressing as a woman, or a man dressing as a man anymore. It's like, it's stories. It's pure art.
Did you ever see less material on pants in your life? Do you know how long it took me to freaking lace up these shits? There's a zipper, only here, stuck there.
Some people like to call us differently than drag queens. I hate that because I think that I am doing the same job as everybody. The only thing I don't need to do is tucking my dick between my legs. But there's like bio queen, hyper queen, femme queen, diva queen. So people like to say that, for instance, I am a bio queen because I am biologically a female. It's not inclusive. I mean, if I was a transgender, I couldn't be able to be called like a bio queen because biologically. If you are gender fluid, then it doesn't fit either. So if someone needs to call, like to really put us in a box, like I prefer the term femme queen because I think it's inclusive, or hyper queen, but still I hate it. I mean, if you see a woman playing guitar, you wouldn't say, oh, this is a female guitarist.
I really don't mind names, honestly. I respect anyone who wants to be called a certain way. I think that what's important is having a respect for the artist. So if they want to be called a certain way, great, and I respect that entirely. But in my case, I'm not offended by anything.
Within the community, some regular drag queens don't accept us. They will publicly say bad things about us. I even heard one day like that we are doing cultural appropriation. And I was like, what the fuck are you saying? You are stealing what a woman is for entertainment, you know? So I'm like, no, actually, I'm reappropriating my thing, you know? We have to work harder for the same results at the end. And even sometimes not even the same results. I mean, there are still bars that won't book us, or they won't book us on certain days or certain nights. It did happen a few times that some drag queens came to me and said, oh, I wanted to book you for a corporate gig, but then I told them you were a female, and then they said, no, we don't want female drag queens. I said, well, why did you say I was a female? What will the customer think? Well, I think that as a bar, as a venue, it's your job to educate.
I've always been like a super artistic person, and I've never stopped at thinking if my gender was actually stopping me from doing things or not. Because I'm so involved in my own little world, and I'm so involved in my art and my stuff that I have a lot more energy to give elsewhere than to actually focus on people that are trying to stop me, if I can say. So I've always been that type of person to probably just not notice at all if someone's trying to stop me from doing something.
I find that for BO queens, it's harder because they have to prove themselves all the time, and they have to explain why they're doing it, and that it's not easier for them, or that it's not a cheat, and they do have access to it. It's valid. For the drag kings, I think people are ready for it. So my name is Roquebière. I'm surprised of my alter ego. I'm surprised that that's the man that I'm performing. He's very leather, cheap cologne, and he's very nice to women. He's just clumsy, I guess. For some, it is an expression of gender. For some, I think it's reinforcing your gender you would identify to, which is my case. Like doing this very trashy guy helps me being the emancipate woman I am. Like it helps me in my woman life.
I'm Charlie DeVille, and my drag name came from my first pet is the first name, and my street name is the second. I'm inspired, like a lot of people, by like queer men, so like Freddie Mercury, David Bowie. I guess like if Burt Reynolds was gay, that's Charlie. Like Oh My God needed a guy in one of her numbers, and I had been watching the House of Lorraine shows for a while, and I just thought like, all right, I'll do it. Some people boil it down to like a man in a dress. It's not just that. To me, it's about a fantasy, a heightened version of like humanity or some sort of mirror, but at the end of the day, like you're creating this character and you're living this character, and that's drag. I think being a drag king is inherently political because I feel like taking up space as a female-bodied person is like a political action. And just being visible and being on stage and being like, you're welcome. You know what I mean? Like not just being like, oh, sorry, like here I am. It's like, no, I'm taking up space here and I'm telling you something, trying to convey a message, and you're gonna pay attention to me. There is like this kind of like no girls allowed kind of overarching thing, and this is echoed in like RuPaul and just different cities. It's not exclusive to here in Montreal, but I've experienced like a whole range of just like body shaming, you know, misgendering, downright people trying to like make me quit, like bullying, like all kinds of, and it's been from like cis gay men mostly. They have this policy at Mado that if you have a vagina, you can't work on the weekend. You can't work there. So I have yet to do a weekend show at Mado. I have never performed at Cocktail. Like, women love Charlie. So drunk bachelorettes, you get the Magic Mike experience without being in a creepy, like gross male strip club. Plus it's drag. If I had the opportunity to perform at Mado on the weekend, I feel like that's what I would do, and I feel like they would really like it, but again, barrier, not allowed to perform there. So, like, I think people are afraid to talk about it because if you seem like you're difficult or you're complaining, they're not going to book you.
Put their right hand high into the air, but maybe just bend it at the elbow so it feel less like you all voted for Trump. Okay, so, yeah.
I got a drag king show that just fell into my lap at the Wiggle Room, and they were like, yeah, we got a cancellation. Do you want to do a drag king show in 2 weeks? And I was like, oh my God, like, I've never produced a show. Do people want to see drag kings? Like, what? You know, all these things. And I was just like, well, I guess I'll try it. We've now had, I believe, 5 or 6 editions of Manspread. Each one has sold out.
So this king from New York, Murray Hill, he said, if there's doors that are closed, then just make your own place and invite everybody. And he's not talking about making your own place and just keep it to yourself. He's just like, show people how great it is to blend and mix and learn from each other. But yeah, this once a month, just making kings, boo boo, it's quite nice.
To have one hell of a good time. Because life is too goddamn short not to. It's too goddamn short not to. Amen.
People who started doing drag however many years ago didn't think that it would be something that you could do full time. And then RuPaul's Drag Race happened, and now it is, and you can make thousands of dollars doing drag. I've worked with like so many RuPaul's Drag Race queens, and I see them live, and I understand that there's nothing more special or more different that they do than any other local drag performer can do. And I feel like I'm on the level of some of these internationally, you know, recognized queens. And then now, like, to see kind of how RuPaul has influenced how drag is, I feel like in all of North America, it's really at like a super high level. I'll get red because I don't have like a lace front human hair wig, and it's like, to me, at the end of the day, if I'm looking at the lace of your wig, that's a problem because it means like what you're doing on stage is boring.
RuPaul's Drag Race, I can find in the community some frustration about the fact that people come for this very popular show, but they don't appreciate the local talent or the local drags. They're not curious about it, which is quite weird because this phenomenon is happening right here. And I find it great because people know about drag. So I think we have to see what we can take advantage of in the situation. All the beauty about the masculinity in a woman, which we're not exposed to, but that we need to understand and we need to embrace and we need to show. And I find it so sexy and strong and great. In Montreal, I find that we're quite late in the drag king community. There's been kings in Ottawa, I heard, for 10 years now. There's kings in Nova Scotia. There's kings everywhere. But in Montreal, I think we're not that much. But it's becoming something. I see baby kings coming from everywhere. I'm a baby king. Like I haven't been doing that for like a year, not even a year or so. I think there's something happening. I don't know if it's gonna be like in the 80s where it just happened and then it was gone. I hope it's there to stay. So that all gender stuff, I was scared of the look of people, but then when you're just diving into it, you see this whole magical, great fantasy world, and people are so loving. Of course there's negative, but there's so much positive out of this. So yeah, I could not be more glad to be where I am right now.
Would you sign off?
The time has come for me to say goodbye to you, my world. Stop following me! Oh my gosh! That is so rude! Turn off that camera! I didn't consent for this video to go online!